too far to say that we cannot pretend now. Was it never enough to have just everything you want? In your shadow I found a place to hide me from my own thoughts. And if I ever got lost, you'll find a way to bring me home. And I want something I can hold that's worth this waiting cold. And I want something that is real, something to make me feel alive.
All right. Hello and welcome to the NSSEA semifinals number 2 featuring Bang and the A-Team, the final team, the lone hope against the monolithic tyranny that is the Handsworth onslaught here. Of course, the other semifinals was all Handsworth. So we'll see if the A-Team can hold on here. Now, just to get the teams sort of all set up here and set the record straight, Bang is our second place finishing team from the regular season, having an impressive record of 7-2. In their previous outing, they beat the Spartans 2-0 during the quarterfinals. Now, the A-Team, on the other hand, are our fourth place finishing team during the regular season with a record of 5-4. Having defeated the Sutherland Sabres 2-0. Now, for those of you who remember from the regular season, the Sutherland Sabres did have that impressive comeback win, if I recall correctly. So that didn't happen them for them. That didn't happen for them this time around. So we are seeing the A team take the field here. Now, there is a bit of a history between the A team and Bang, they having played twice during the regular season. Once on October 29th, with Bang having come out on top in the series 2-0, and once again on December 3rd, with Bang once again winning out 2-0. So we'll see if the A team has what it takes to avenge their previous losses and come out ahead in this most important playoff series, because this is where it all counts. Now, of course, we are well underway here with the picks and ban phase. A team, of course, on the blue side here, with Bang on the red side. Looking at the bans here, we have Mordekaiser, Thresh, and Vane. That, I'm thinking way back to the last time I saw Bang actually on stream. I know there was a Mordekaiser player in the series, or I suppose in the league. I think it was the Bang top laner. There was a Mordekaiser that did both really well and really poorly once. And I think that might have been him, but I may be mistaken. In any case, Mordekaiser's always been a strong pick. Certainly not quite as powerful as he was in his release date immediately after his rework. His most recent rework, we have to clarify here. Mordekaiser's been reworked a number of times over the years. But in any case, moving on to the other bands here. Thresh Vane makes sense to me. I'm pretty sure I have... In fact, let me check my other notes here really quickly. I feel like I have something I want to say about the Thresh. No, excuse me, that was the other team. That was, in fact, Atypical, who had a very impressive Thresh. Not to say Bang's support player wouldn't play Thresh well, but if I recall correctly, Atypical had a very, very skilled Thresh player. In any case... both strong standard characters in the bottom lane, so nothing surprising there. I've mentioned Thresh in the past numerous times, talking about how he's simply just a solid character. His kit is so good, unless Riot goes out of their way to utterly gut his numbers, that character is simply always going to be an effective one. So never disagree with seeing a Thresh ban personally. Now, looking at the bans from the Bang side, we have Morgana and a Nocturne and a Hecarim. Fairly standard things. I'm seeing Nocturne bans more than I'm used to, I feel like, in the NSSEA, but it's not particularly weird. Nocturne is simply annoying. He just has an ult that he clicks, and there's a good chance someone's simply going to die. So sort of take that kind of baseline. It's almost like you're countered by numbers more easily. Not to say that the character doesn't take any skill or anything, but it almost feels like the ult is almost a little bit idiot-proof kind of thing. You just sort of press a button, and typically something really good will happen for your team almost immediately. So take away that sort of volatility, boil it down more so to your standard map awareness, which is a little bit harder to counter a Nocturne with. Morgana, a fairly standard ban, annoyingly, because I like to play Morgana personally. I've mentioned this in the past. In my experience, the last few weeks, she feels like pick or ban about 50% of the time when I'm playing. Solo queue, obviously, but in any case, Hecarim, not a lot to say about that. Your standard, strong jungler. Hecarim's been varying degrees of good over the years, but always been a solid pick. So, looking at the actual picks themselves now, we have, of course, on the A-team side, a Cassiopeia, a Mumu, a Misfortune, Alistair, and a Gnar. On Bang side, electing to go with Blitzcrank, Orianna, Kayn, Cho'Gath, and Kai'Sa. Now, the position should be rather straightforward here, not a lot to have to figure out, with Misfortune and Alistair going in the bottom lane, a Mumu in the jungle, Gnar in the top lane, a Cassiopeia in the mid, barring some kind of bizarre swapperoo, but I don't think we're going to be seeing that given the team composition there. On Bang side, the Blitzcrank Kai'Sa bottom lane is something of a no-brainer. I don't really see what else could function as a support unless I want to do something really weird like Cho'Gath or Orianna. I feel like I've seen one of those at some point, but I don't think I'd recommend it personally. Kayn going in the jungle, a fairly standard pick coming into this most recent season here. You see him a lot. Seems to work quite well with the new items that have become available, the mythic tier, if you will. Orianna in the mid lane, and Cho'Gath in the jungle. Now, barring the Kaisa pick, I'm just looking at the bottom lane there. That's a pretty old school setup there. Blitzcrank. Interestingly, obviously they're on opposite teams, so this isn't relevant at all. But one of my favorite bottom lanes was way back in, I want to say this was season 1 or preseason. It was the Alistair Blitzcrank gimmick lane. It was kind of dumb. It wasn't actually that good even back in the day, but it revolved around Blitzcrank hooking people into your tower, and then Alistair would lock them up, or Blitzcrank would hook them kind of near the tower. Alistair would walk in to the person and then headbutt them back into the tower, and that was the entire play. So I would like to see that in this day and age. I'm about 75% certain that it wouldn't work, barring a massive skill differential in the bottom lane. But in any case, that has nothing to do with the game that's going on here now. So that's the Vancouver Amumu skin. Makes sense. I believe that's the second time at least we've seen that skin during the NSSEA series here. I never paid. I just because I'm a boring person. I've never paid any attention to like crafting and how skins work. Given since they introduced the crafting system, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, whatever it was. So I finally recently just made or did the 3 years worth of crafting material all at once. So I guess that's how you get the Vancouver skin nowadays. You don't probably buy it; you get it through the crafting materials. But in any case, we are loading into the game here now with, of course, once again, Bang on the red side, A-Team on the blue side. That invisible barrier has dissipated, and we see the combatants surging forth onto the field there. Thus far, Bang is forming a death ball cluster, perhaps looking to invade. We will see. They're going to be spotted out fairly easily if Amu is paying any attention yet. No, he's going to get on out of there. Does not want to be hit by that freight train. They always have to watch out for Blitzcrank. That's always it's always been a fairly good tell when whether or not to expect an invade. I've noticed over the years that's not really changed. Where if the enemy team has a Blitzcrank, there is a reasonable assumption that you're going to see that sort of level 1 invade simply because that hook is so strong in that sort of context. But as I said, there will be no fight happening here, barring something strange happening in the next few seconds. A-Team simply electing to advance toward that blue buff over on that side there. As Kane is now going to be starting on the red side of his jungle, of course, and Amumu going with the mirrored blue. Oh, no, excuse me, he will be starting at the chicken birds there. The most important objective in the game. Always lovely, when there's something really important happening on the map and you see your teammate go killing the chickens. But anyway, going here into the mid lane, we see some very quiet CSing. First CS of the game, first 3 CS of the game going to Cassiopeia. Amazing. Bottom lane here, we got Blitzcrank angrily standing forward there. A very aggressive posture, obviously looking to hook when he can. There's running forward into the third brush there. I don't believe he's attempted a hook yet. Yes, as he is full mana at the moment, but I imagine it's only a matter of time until we see his robotic fists of fury unleashed upon either, well, ideally Misfortune. He probably doesn't want to pull in a Alistair too much, but he'll take it. If damage is damage, right? There you go. Trading ultimately does a little bit more damage in exchange. Typically, you want to try and have your hook be a little or have a little bit more impact than that, but he's got multiple tries of the thing. It is an expensive spell, incidentally, with Blitzcrank. There's a lot of supports where you just kind of like throw out spells all day long and you don't have to think about it too much. That's not really the case with the Blitzcrank, who is angrily invading into the Amumu's jungle here. Amumu is extremely low and gets punched to death, and there goes. That was a very interesting. I don't think I've actually seen that in quite some time. Blitzcrank very aggressively invading into the enemy jungle and taking out the Amumu there. So neat. I like what I'm seeing there, and perhaps Blitzcrank is the player to watch going forth. Creative plays, netting results for Bang within the first 3 minutes of the game. As we go back to the bottom lane here, Blitzcrank still standing forth very aggressively. I suspect we're going to maybe see him. Well, the wave is decently big there. You do need to keep that in, going in there again. Lands the hook with the summoner version of the flash, or sorry, the hex flash it's called. They might, nope, there's the heal there, keeping the misfortune safe. She decides to go back in. That was a bit of a suspect call there, as she barely managed to survive thanks to a heal, and then elects to continue the fight, even though she was okay at that point. So a bit of a miscalculation there. We'll see if Amumu can do anything in the mid lane here as he attempts a sort of gank. He's on his own, so I suspect he's not going to get too much there. Just lands a bit of damage and backs out. So once again, Blitzcrank doing work for his team there. His efforts resulting directly in both the kills for his team. You see Kane clearing out, countering the chicken birds. I don't know how the A-team is going to recover from this. Another nice hex splash, or interesting hex splash, let's say. He was attempting something. I believe he probably has enough mana for one hook. He's running a bit low there. But it's one of those cases where, well, you know, hex splash is free at this point. You may as well try and do stuff. So I like what I'm seeing there. And back into the top lane, nothing happening. Sort of back and forth farming. We do see a bit of a lull. Blitzcrank's not on the field, right? So clearly nothing exciting can happen. Orianna landing some good harass there. She's almost out of mana though, so probably doesn't really have enough gas in the tank to finish the race there. A large wave pushing into Bang's bottom side there. We'll see how much of that CS the Kai'Sa will be able to pick up. There goes Blitzcrank once again. It looked like a hex splash from just off screen. Misfortune taking a tower shot, flashing out, and this is going to be the end of her. Yeah, she does not have the resources to survive. There's a teleport coming in to try and keep the Alistair alive. I don't think Cassiopeia is really going to get much off of that. However, Kane may, no, for the time being, he is safe. Gnar does get locked up twice. He's going to try and use a flash there. I don't think that's going to be enough. Oh, it just barely is enough. He survives and manages the counter kill there as Gnar just barely manages to transform. He was literally about 0.5 seconds off of death there as the auto attack was going to reset, and net probably Kane there the kill, but instead Gnar finding himself a double kill as that timely transformation completely turns things around for them there, and that was definitely not the play Bang was looking for. It was a very tough situation, but I appreciate what was being attempted there, but just a slight miscalculation on auto attack timers of all things ends up costing him 2 kills. And speaking of kills here, we may be seeing another one coming in. There's a very nice hook from Blitzcrank once again. Ultimately, Kai'Sa actually taking a good amount of damage. There's a thing stalling out, but it's definitely not a good sign there as Blitzcrank's hooks, I want to say they're 100% accuracy. I don't think I've seen him miss one yet there. Blitzcrank using the Hex Flash to jump over vision gaps, essentially. So, I mean, they probably know he's in that bush there, but, you know, why make it certain? They said, actually it was yesterday, knowledge is power, so deny your enemy's power when possible. And here we see a joint effort in the river there by Amumu and Cassiopeia, who is in potential danger of being hooked. Blitzcrank is just everywhere, as Kane is going to come in for the kill. Kai'Sa landing, or just missing her long-range shot there. Kane finishing things off with his ult. Amumu going down as well, and the kill score is now 2-5 in favor of Bang, as they'll most likely be picking up a dragon on top of that. So an interesting turn of events, as it seems like A-team, at least initially, looked like they were prioritizing. Never mind, let's see some fighting going on here. Never, that one's going to stall out. Not a lot happening in the top lane. So as I was saying, the A-team, it looked like they were prioritizing Scuttle there to try and get a bit of river control. But in turn, what was actually happening was Bang was prioritizing the river there even more, bringing in even more resources to secure that position and ultimately take the dragon for themselves. So clever stuff there, bringing a larger force, a gun to a knife fight, if you will, and some more quiet CSing in the mid lane. Cassiopeia getting poked out pretty hard. A bit of a rough stretch for her there, as finding herself the recipient of a Blitzcrank hook, and now non-stop Orianna harass. And she really does need to be careful there. Does Orianna have a flash? She does. Cassiopeia does not have one, so Oriana could potentially try to make a play there. It's not entirely necessary, but she may elect to do so. Nard landing a good amount of harass there, using that little speed boost from his passive to avoid the Cho'Gath Q, the Rupture. And Cho'Gath just keeps taking more and more damage. This situation is not going to go well for him there, as he does not respect Gnar's damage, mobility, and, well, I suppose his transformation. There is Blitzcrank once again with a clever play from behind, sneaking his way in from the opposite jungle, or the opposition jungle, and does a combination play with Oriana's ult, netting himself to yet another kill. As I was saying, the Cassiopeia was just so low and sticking around that it just kind of felt like a matter of time until she eventually went down. Sometimes you just do need to concede a position and get yourself a bit of health back. So here comes Amumu, seeing if he can accomplish anything here. He's going to chase the Oriana off. I suspect they're not going to get too much out of it, as Cassiopeia is really not in a position to aid in an immediate sense, unless Amumu can lock her up very long term. No, never mind. Actually, Amumu is fighting decently. Oriana does have the flash there, barely gets over the wall. Okay, she does manage to get out. It's a bit closer than I was expecting, but can never underestimate Amumu, I suppose. Will just sort of slowly burn you to death. And back into the bottom lane here as we watch some quiet last hitting. Amumu taking out that Scuttle Crab. A legitimately important objective in the current League of Legends season. Blitzcrank still lurking there. Will not hook. Will in fact just go for the surefire punch attack. CCing people up. Unfortunately, he's going to get headbutted into the tower there, so a little bit of careless damage, trying to go for that fadeaway hook, so he can miss. Blitzcrank isn't capable of missing that hook of his, so perhaps he will attempt something here once the wave is cleared. The damage taken ultimately is about even with the Alistair, so not a particularly catastrophic situation for him there. Still aiming. Okay, he missed 2 in a row. He's completely ruining his average at this point. I take everything back about the Blitzcrank player. No idea what he's doing. Terrible hooks. And he's going to go again here. Will he avenge the previous loss of hook? He's waiting. Good patience. He does miss it there, but I do actually like him waiting like that. It sort of makes the opposition sweat, panic, run around, and then you can kind of aim your hook a lot more easily. It's just unfortunate the execution wasn't perfect in that situation. But we have Oriana here using her ult to stymie that gank. We have Kayn and Blitzcrank coming in with a counter, forcing a flash there. That hook it may or may not have hit. It was kind of on the margins there, but definitely a flash worth it in that instance, as that probably would have been a dead Amumu had he not done so. So here's him. No, Blitzcrank's not done yet. He's really intent on ruining that Amumu's day. Lands a hook on the Alistair. Not the best target for that, as they're going to take a shot from multiple shots from Miss Fortune's ult there. Another ult coming in, chained shortly after with the Cassiopeia, and in fact we're going to see 2 counter kills there coming in on the side of the A team, so a brief bright spot for them. Things had not been looking good for a while, but managing to pick up 2 kills with an overly aggressive push by Bang, trying to make too much happen, I suppose. They are in a lead, they are doing very well, but there's a point at which you kind of overextend. So again, unfortunately, Blitzcrank did hook the Alistair there, and it was not the ideal target. Had Blitzcrank managed to hook anyone else, they probably would have won that fight out, if I had to guess. For example, had they just hooked the Miss Fortune, her ult would have never happened. But of course, this is hindsight. Not really relevant to how things played out, simply in terms of how they might want things to go going forward. I remember now just a bit of a personal story here, which we'll talk about later, as we do have a dragon potentially happening. Kayn electing to pull the thing the entire way out to remove any sort of possibility, or lessen the possibilities of any sort of a Mumu shenanigans, and they do pick that one up entirely for free there, not even challenged, as the A team wisely elects to not contest, as they were not in the greatest of shape to do anything about that situation. It's not great to lose dragon, but dying and losing dragon is worse. You see Cho'Gath just sitting under the tower there, taking a bit of a breather. He There is a mild CS deficit in top lane. He has, of course, died twice, but it's nothing. It's not an insurmountable lead on the part of the Gnar there. Cho'Gath is certainly still in the game, so hopefully he'll have some impact going forward. But there's Blitzcrank once again. He's just the creative use of terrain by Blitzcrank there. I do really do appreciate that. It's not the most common. Oh, there comes the flash from the Amumu there, or the bandage from the Amumu there, as they do manage to finish off the Orianna. So nice combo play there. Once again, taking out that mid laner. Blitzcrank, very brute force pushing in there, and now with the help of Kayn, lands a nice hook. Misfortune will be going down. Kill doesn't even go to the Kai'Sa, so money going on to the right players. Everything done correctly there. Good to see that sort of coordinated play. They do know the Cassiopeia is there. She's kind of in a rough situation. We'll see if she'll manage to slither her way out of this. But that is most likely not going to happen, as Kai'Sa is going to finish her off with one final auto attack, just barely enough there. The Alistar will use his ult and will have enough tankiness to survive for the time being, but for how long? Well, he'll get out for now. Oh, will he? Nope, okay, they're still good. Kayn, very aggressive. See, that same spot there where, so Bang not deterred. That was the site of their previous defeat, and Kayn still mucking about deep in the enemy territory there. Now electing to finally back off, as Gnar is going to land a bunch of damage there and kite out the Cho'Gath. All he has to do is avoid the ruptures, and he's going to be in a pretty good spot there. Yeah, he comes out ahead in that trade. He was behind on HP at the beginning of it, but he's definitely evening things out. Cho'Gath, of course, though, with a good amount of sustain via his passive, so he'll be able to recover from that in short order, unless Gnar keeps up pressure. Some trading back and forth. Well, I shouldn't say trading. Orianna actually just dodged everything there, I do believe. So, really, it's just the Cassiopeia taking damage, and there we go. That's the aforementioned Cho'Gath sustain coming into effect, as he has now acquired himself a hit point lead for the time being. Now, Gnar, of course, gets a massive amount of just sort of passive regeneration when he goes into Mega Gnar form, so he will be able to come back himself in short order. But for the time being, we have the Amumu clearing things out. He's going to get ruptured by the Cho'Gath. I'm not sure. No, he gets out. He is safe for the time being. Both teams do have the option to escape for the time being. Amumu's got to move fast. No, he just barely gets clipped by the rupture. Did not see the bottom lane and jungle coming up, or specifically as it goes to Kai'Sa and the Kayn coming up to stop him, and he gets caught out. And with no chances taken out by superior numbers, Blitzcrank going for a long-range Hail Mary there, does not land. The Snake is attempting to fight back as best she can, clearing out the wave, does stall that offensive, so for the time being the A-team have only lost one player, certainly could have gone worse, but Bang electing to simply take their winnings and exiting the situation. Or perhaps not. Blitzcrank, it's difficult to say that, because Blitzcrank is always just looking to do things. And once again, I really do appreciate supports who recognize that they're not passive observers to the game. They are integral parts with, depending on the character, but sometimes they have a good amount of agency to dictate the flow of the game. Blitzcrank is definitely one of those. And Amumu, not deterred from his earlier losses, will be confidently waddling down the river there. Nothing really for him to accomplish other than potentially kill a ward, unless it despawns for the last auto attack. It looks like he got it. May as well get that money, right? Dragon is being pinged. The team's aware that it's spawning in just under a minute here, so another major objective that I don't want to say the A-team hasn't been prioritizing it. Early on, especially for the first Dragon, it looked like they were certainly thinking about it. It just didn't go particularly well for them. But we'll see if they're able to break that Bang monopoly on that market. A nice ult exchange there. That's probably not going to work out for the Cassiopeia there in the long run, yeah. Orianna simply has too much damage, and she also turned her back there, so the stun didn't happen. In the end, Orianna got her CC because the condition for the CC applying is it simply has to land, whereas unless Cassiopeia actually, catches an opponent looking at her, that's not really going to do very much, I think. a moderate amount of damage. Once again, bottom lane getting caught out there, unfortunately, by another Blitzcrank hook. That's going to be the end of her there. The question is, will the Alistair be able to survive using his ult? Most likely, Kayn backing off. He doesn't want to tank that turret too long, as he'll probably die in about 4 or 5 shots total. Only had to take 2 there. Another tower going down, this time for the Gnar. I believe Gnar is really the only lane, or role I should say, where things... Never mind, let's talk about roles at the moment, as Blitzcrank is... I don't think he was really looking for a kill there. I think he was establishing dominance, let's put it that way. Letting the enemy know that they're not safe anywhere. Blitzcrank is omnipresent. And in any case, as I was saying, I think really the only bright spot at the moment for the A-team is actually their top laner, as Gnar is doing quite well for himself. I mean, Gnar is a strong character. There's unfortunately going to be a lot riding on his shoulders here to turn things around, I feel like. At the very least, Misfortune has an okay amount of money, I suppose. Her CS is not bad. Barely not landing there, as Kayn perhaps biting off more than he can chew. And warping himself to his own death. Oh, here comes the Mumu with a nice lockup. Are they going to be able to finish off the Orianna? Does land a good 4-person ult, but ultimately it's simply Kai'Sa dying for the time being. Here comes the Gnar, landing that final kill on the Orianna there. So a triple kill coming out from the A-team. They have some life in them there yet, as again, that all kind of started from a bit of an awkward play by the Kayn. As I said, perhaps overestimating his own and his team's position there and the capacity to do things. He's still trying. Here comes the, oh, no, never mind. Blitzcrank also slightly overestimating his own value there. He was a lone support versus the entire team. I believe he landed a hook on the, it was probably the Cassiopeia. She was the lowest of the targets. Not really sure what he was thinking might happen there. Perhaps trying to land some tower shots in, or perhaps trying to elicit the cooperation of the tower. I don't know. Cho'Gath was lurking in the background there, but in any case, unfortunate situation for them there, as the A-team have turned things around in terms of the kill score to a degree. They still find themselves in a deficit of 10 to 12, but obviously in a much better situation, as what they had before, 6, yes. 6 is a lower number than 10. Orianna picking herself up a blue buff. We're looking at previous seasons here. The laners are getting buffs. What's going on? Alistair looking to fight for vision control here. Vision control kind of being traded back and forth across the map. But a very interesting situation, as I was saying earlier. Bang, very tight coordinated plays for a while, which we'll talk about in a minute, as we're going to see a major fight happening here. Never mind, Gnar is backing out. It looks like he did spot out that Kayn in time. He is a very strong character, but I'm not sure he could duel both of those players at the same time. Probably would have lost out in the end, despite the presence of Gnar form, barring a rather massive and uncharacteristic misplay from the Bang side of things. Blitzcrank still in position. He's lurking. He's always, he's always looking for something, and that's an important thing. Even if you're not always doing the right thing, the fact that you're always at least looking for things also means that you as a player are probably going to improve over time as well. It sort of speaks of a certain mindset of a person who, isn't content with just sort of sitting there and accepting status quo and sort of going on autopilot. A very proactive lifestyle, and it's good to see. All right, we see both teams in force gathering here on this side of the map. Amumu going straight in, landing a 3-person ult. This may go well for them as they have a lot of AoE in conjunction with the Misfortune and the final, or the second ult there was, it must have been the Cassiopeia, yes it was. So chained very well there, as 2 kills going to the side of the A-team, who now find themselves slightly closer in gold and even in kill score. The dragon, unfortunately, is not spawning them at the moment. Baron is a bit of a stretch here to go for at this current time, and it looks like they're not even thinking about it. There's a lot of strength still on the field there. Oh, there we go. The dragon does actually spawn. So, of course, that's a much safer and better objective to go for, and we're not certain about larger ones. And, yeah, unfortunately, I was about to talk about this earlier and we were sort of interrupted, and then the situation has evolved even further in that same direction, so it's probably more appropriate to discuss this at this point in time. But yeah, Bang, for the bulk of the game, was very disciplined, very precise in terms of their team play and coordination. And suddenly, oh, never mind, let's not talk about that, as we see there's that precision play we were talking about earlier, everyone on the team getting in on that kill and managing to take out the Cassiopeia with a quick little snipe there, and they're actually very aggressively going for Dragon. Kaisa is very, very good at shredding Baron, if I recall correctly, so they should be able to make short work of that. Baron is about half HP, if I can see it correctly there. It looked like an early smite came in, possibly. Oh no, I think I just seen some kind of unrelated particle effect. There we go. And they do manage to take that off of a single pick on the Cassiopeia. So Bang, after giving up a lot, giving up a rather large lead, or almost giving up a large lead, I should say. They were technically gold-wise ahead. Off a simple pick on the mid lane, a rather innocuous play, chaining that into a nice Baron kill. So good stuff by them, returning to their earlier form. Which again I keep sort of mentioning before we're interrupted by a team fight or some such. But for most of the game, been doing very precise, very coordinated team plays, and then things just went very awkward. A string of about 3 poor fights in a row, 3 or possibly even 4, and just getting themselves caught out on the far side of the enemy encampment there, and getting caught out with multiple AOE ults, and things weren't looking the best for them there, but definitely they are in the driver's seat once again. We'll see if they're able to do anything with this Baron here. It is, of course, time limited, so you got to make use of it while you can, but of course don't want to rush things, as we've seen what that results in from some of the subsequent or previous team fights. They are split across the map here, so they are in danger of being picked off. But so long as they are careful, that shouldn't be an issue. Again, they do need to watch out for clustering too much and getting caught out with a triple AoE ult. In fact, actually all members from the A team have effective AoE means. Even Alistair is... there comes the Nard, never mind Alistair. That's a decent ult there. He is way ahead of his team, so he may not be able to make too much happen there. Mumu using his ult defensively to try and salvage the situation and having his allies run away, but noble sacrifice. As Alistair also goes down there. It was an okay idea by the Nard, but he was too far ahead of the rest of his team. There wasn't that immediate follow-up, which had been the key to success for the A team up until that point in their victorious team fights. But just a little bit too much in that instance. And that's the sort of situation where I feel like had the A-team had a lead, it would have been a good play. Nara would have been able to survive for just long enough. The follow-up damage would have been higher, and regardless of the fact that it was staggered, it would have been okay. But unfortunately for them, it wasn't quite enough. The lockdown wasn't quite long enough. Oriana was able to basically free herself of that situation and completely stymie that aggression with her own ult, and stopping really the follow-up damage from happening in any kind of meaningful capacity. So they will be walking out of the team having acquired themselves a number of important objectives, such as the middle inhibitor and not taking a single casualty. So it's that doesn't bode well for the A-team in general, because again, the idea and the execution weren't necessarily terrible in terms of how that fight went. It simply wasn't perfect, and when you have to do perfect fights in order to win, it's rough. You can't ask people to be perfect literally all the time. Well, I mean, suppose you could, but you're just going to get disappointed. As Nar is clearing out vision, as is a Mumu. They certainly haven't given up on their side of the map. They're clearing things out, doing diligent work. The small things, it adds up. A lot of the times when you get to the sort of the late scrambly phase of the game, people sometimes forget about these sort of the smaller details, and it sort of starts adding up, and really worsens the situation to a point where you can't recover. So I do like that they are still considering such things. We have people congregating around the dragon as it will be spawning momentarily here, I do believe. We have Cassie basically clearing out those super minions. There's the dragon right there. That is going to be the second Wind Drake of the game. Again, I'm swapping between Drake and Dragon. I don't know. What do you guys? What do people say nowadays? Granted, I can't actually see chat, incidentally. So I ask you questions, but I don't know. Feel free to. That's actually the thing. I do watch the VODs. So, if you want to tell me how much you hate my casting or whatever, feel free to do that, and I'll read it eventually. But here we go. A spirited push here coming in from Bang, as they do have all 5 of their players. Blitzcrank, as always, very, very aggressively pushed in. Still looking for things. They will be landing not too much damage against the tower on that wave. Really just what the minions could accomplish. The AD carry Kaisa. Typically the AD carry the one doing a lot. Oh, never mind. We have Blitzcrank with a Hex Splash. The enemy team, A-team, standing still, so it was a good attempt, but not managing to catch anyone out in that instance there. Perhaps they are getting wise to his ways. They've seen that trick a few times now, but it's still worth doing. Blitzcrank still going in, landing a hook against the Gnar. Not the best target in the universe for that, but do manage to land a lot of damage there and essentially bait out the Misfortune ult for free. It was simply used defensively to ensure a fight didn't happen. So essentially gaining a large tactical advantage off of nothing too significant there. A good ult coming in from the Orianna. She's cut out, uses her barrier, is getting a little bit low, flashes out. She will barely manage to survive as a result of the useful skills there. And ultimately the Alistair going down. Gnar is caught out with a rupture. That's a lot of damage coming from, I believe that was the Kaisa all at once. You see her warping into the backline of the enemy team, taking out the Cassiopeia with an auto attack there, finally finishing off the Gnar in conjunction with his teammate, the Cho'Gath there, as a swift and sudden end to the epic struggle between the A-team and Bang, with Bang coming out ahead in the first game, winning number 1 in the series. We'll see if the A-team can come back, because as I said, it was a very good and competitive game for a lot of it. So looking forward to outing number 2, and we'll be seeing you momentarily. All right, welcome back, folks, for game number 2 of Bang versus the A-Team. We do have a side, yes, this is a side swap with Bang now finding themselves on the blue side of the map, with A-Team shuffling off over to the red side. Now, hopefully this upcoming game here is just even half as exciting as that last one, because just straight up, that was, I think, one of my favorite games to watch thus far in the NSSEA series as a whole. It had everything you want. It was very competitive, very back and forth, nice showings from both sides, one team getting ahead, a comeback. Granted, you know, there were some mess-ups on one side, but it always takes the opposition side to capitalize on those things. Good use of AoE, really sort of surgically precise, well-timed and executed plans. Not just team fights. You could see, particularly, you know, Bang with a victorious effort there in the end. They had an idea what they wanted to do all around the map, and they were executing it with fairly good coordination. That's not something you see every day. So I really liked that. Also, I did confer with my notes here before we get into picks and bans. We talk about that. You know, we have the whole spectator catch-up phase discussed that in any case. But I did confer with my notes, and I do believe in my very first time casting here, the Thresh player I noted actually was from Handsworth, or sorry, Handsworth, but from Bang. So it's the same guy. The Blitzcrank was the Thresh, and that's probably why that Thresh ban is coming in. So yeah, it's the second time I've been impressed by him. So any of you guys who are friends with the Bang support, let them know that that individual, they're doing some impressive stuff. They're legitimately good, and I hope to see them continue improving in the future, because that's the main thing. You know, when someone has a talent like that, it's not just being good in the moment. It's always with the mindset of continuing to improve, because there's no greater shame than having that sort of capability and then ultimately, you know, stalling and having that go to waste. It's always important to have that challenger mindset and continue to improve throughout the course of your life. But in any case, not to take away from the play of anyone else here, everyone's been doing really well, but to me, that definitely there's been a lot of standout support play there. So really looking forward to seeing more of that. In any case, we have Bang in terms of their bans. We are going with, I believe that is an identical band set there, yes, with the Thresh, Morgana, and the Nocturne. Nothing too unusual going on there. A-Team electing to ban out, I believe, no, it's not the same. It's close. The Vayne and the Thresh are the same from last game, but the Orianna has been swapped out from previous game as a targeted ban. I guess they didn't really want to fight an Orianna again. The ult was actually fairly effective. There were a few key situations where the Orianna really came into play. Like, it was sort of annoying most of the time. You might pick off one person, but there definitely was that one team fight towards the end where Gnar came in. I say it was a little bit early, a little bit aggressive going in. It still could have potentially worked out for the A-Team there. But it was completely, just any hope of victory in that team fight was completely crushed by the counter Orianna ult as people were trying to come in and land the damage. So, not a bad ban, I would say. And all right, so in terms of picks here, looks like the team compositions are a mix of old and new. We're seeing Alistair once again, although the teams have been swapped here. So we're going to be seeing the Bang support player on something other than a Hook Champion. We'll see if he knows how to play those. I suspect he does. Coming in with the Alistair. The Syndra most likely going to be in the mid lane there. Nasus, it's the snooze town, Nasus top lane. Um, Perhaps that might actually be a bit of a change from the usual nonstop aggro, everyone's fighting all the time top lanes we see in the NSSEA. It's very interesting. I don't know why that is, but it just seems like it's sort of a trait of North Vancouver top lane players. Just angry youths lashing out at the world. No patience. Don't want to sit there farming, just want to fight all the time. I know there's worse ways to play, certainly. Kane going to be in the jungle there, I would imagine, with Jin rounding things out in the bottom lane, and will be able to, or will be attempting to fight things out with his cow compatriot Alistair. On A team side here, we have a Lilia who will. That's going to be a jungle Lilia. Cassiopeia in the mid lane. Wait, did they just? Yeah, Cassiopeia previously was on Bang, so they swapped the mid lane there, and Cassiopeia. No, wait, no, Cassiopeia. Yeah, she was the A team. So the same pick on the mid lane that time. So it went okay. Cassiopeia was instrumental, I want to say, in one or two of sort of the mid game team fights where there were a couple good ults there. Overall, things didn't work great, but things didn't work out great for the A team, like in a general sense. So it's difficult to pin anything on one character, one player, or anything like that. It's just sort of as a team effort, things didn't go great for them. So Cassiopeia didn't necessarily do great, but that doesn't necessarily mean it was a bad pick or Cassiopeia performed poorly within that context. So they're going to be giving that another go. Always, it's not a bad thing to try again. Misfortune going to the bottom lane once again. So that is the same pick. Yes, that was who the A team decided to play last game. The support's been swapped out, however, with the Nautilus, as Alistair was picked away by Bang. And Nar once again will be finding himself in the top lane for the A team. That did go very well for them. In terms of sort of an isolated laning or role context, really the only one that went well for them was Nar, who I believe in the early game found himself about 3-0 and was up about 20 to 30 CS. So he's going to have to do a little bit more to shut down a Nasus, however. Nasus not as great as fighting back as Cho'Gath in the early game, so he should have an easier time of harassing him out. But of course, Nasus is one of those ticking time bomb characters. So you really need to keep him down and keep him down as long as possible. Otherwise, he turns into basically something you can't screw up and walks towards you, presses one button, and you die. So, but this is, again, organized team play that isn't as prevalent here as you might see in solo queue, where things could illogically drag out for 40 minutes and Nasus suddenly deals 7,000 damage. And there are definitely ways to counter that when working with your teammates. So we'll see how that all pans out going forward as the game is about to load up here. The spectator delay having expired, ensuring that no underhanded tactics or skullduggery is afoot. Of course, we do need to go through the loading screen here yet, but how many skins are people using? Can I complain about skins again? Am I the only one? Does anyone else here just... Are they tired of just too many skins in the game? I suspect not, and I'm just a curmudgeon, but... Oh well. We're loaded in here, so we don't have to talk about that anymore. The A-team very slowly phasing into existence here at some point, I would imagine. There we go. Okay, I see the timers coming up. That means everyone's going to be loading in here momentarily. Focusing in on Bang. No, back to the A-team. We've got to look at them. They are the underdogs here, given that... well, I guess they are the underdogs from the standing perspective and the fact that they're behind at the moment. But we'll see if they're able to pull an upset here coming into game number 2. Everyone running out. Bang once again forming... that actually both teams clustering fairly hard here. In fact, the A team is more clustered this time around, as they technically do have the Hook champion for this outing. They are stalled. It doesn't necessarily mean they won't. You can always go for a late push to try and wait to see if you can catch anyone out, poking their head out a little bit late, aggressively pushing themselves forward. They're not going to catch anyone at the time being. They'll have to wrap around there if they're going to catch the Nasus. It's possible he may be caught unawares, but he'll definitely see them coming. That's for certain. If they elect to go that way, no. Bang simply. Oh, well, Nasus is just standing still there. It was. I don't know if he wasn't paying attention or had nerves of steel and was like, all right, if they come for me, I'm just going to flash immediately. Really could be either. In any case, no harm, no foul, no one going down there as a result of that. Some high-level Metal Gear play happening. And, yeah, things unexpectedly resolving themselves in a very peaceful fashion. Unless you're jungle creeps, because you are now going to get murdered and have your essence harvested by the junglers. Red buff going down here. Actually, red buff going down on both sides first, it looks like. Lilia electing to start with the chicken birds and then wrapping her way around to the red buff. Some quiet CSing happening there. Nasus getting, I believe that was his first Q of the game. The start of the marathon there. Being forced back by the Gnar. This is no surprise. He can't really compete with that kind of ranged harass. It's really a case of how much can the Nasus in that sort of matchup, how patient can he be and wait for his spots. That was a very aggressive trade there, ultimately sort of evening out. It looked like Cassiopeia had the early advantage there in terms of damage, but things coming back the way of Lysandra, or sorry, not Lysandra, Syndra. Similar name-ish, right? Whatever. Back to some last hitting there in the bottom lane. Man, I shouldn't have said that earlier, because now I'm just going to have Lysandra in my head for the rest of the game, and you're probably going to hear me call her that again at some point, 5 minutes from now. So, just heads up. Never mind, we have another fight going on here. Today, it's, rather this game, it's the mid laners who are extremely aggressive. The top laners, in fact, managing to show a bit of restraint there. And we see there is an invade happening by the Lilia, who is finding herself much worse for wear in that exchange there. A flash may ultimately take her down. No, her innate movement speed will manage to just barely get her out there. The Syndra not able to capitalize on that. Gnar finding himself in a bit of an awkward situation. I do believe he still has the jump of his. So he should be able to just leap over that wall or flash if he, for whatever reason, has to. Takes way more damage than he would want to. I'm not quite sure what he was doing wandering in the jungle there, but in any case, a nice little hook from the Nautilus, who unfortunately will find himself headbutted under the tower there, so that situation turned around on him rather quickly. In the meantime, Misfortune does keep harassing, so it's not a total loss there, as the life total, at least on the supports part, will start to somewhat equalize as potions are used, and things kind of stall out once again. So no kill yet, 4 minutes into the game, which is not necessarily unusual in overall League of Legends sense, but feels a bit unusual for the NSSEL. Usually, someone's died by now. Nasus with a very big wave, so he's able to, hopefully, at least from his perspective, land some Qs there, farm things up. There's the all-important cannon minion there, and does manage to grab that one. Missed one CS. Gonna Q there, Harry, got it. Doesn't actually take too much harass as a result of that. So again, it is a little bit difficult when the wave is that big to harass someone out, as the minions will just start pelting you with little shots. Here comes the Alistair with a nice headbutt and a knock-up combo there. Unfortunate hook there by the Nautilus there as he tried to get out, and that's going to be a double kill coming in from Bang. Good job once again by the support, starting that one up and allowing Jin to finish things off. Gold going exactly where it needs to. 2 kills for them, and a sudden and surprising start to the kill parade that we'll perhaps be witnessing. The game coming here on out. A dragon started. Kane looking to do that in conjunction with his friend Alistair there. I don't think that is contested at all. They should be able to get that one for free. Yeah, there's no one in range. And unless surprise Ezreal, but I don't think we're going to be seeing that. And Nasus getting himself another Q. And a dragon. Just getting all kinds of tasty treats there in the top lane. Come to think of it, what is the CS score? CS score is redundant because the S in CS stands for score, I believe, the creep score. But anyway, Gnar with 30. So Gnar has a very, very mild lead in terms of CS. But yeah, not exactly a great start for him. As you know, things look even, I mean, technically even as a lead, but that's really not the story in terms of any kind of Nasus matchup there. You really want to sort of push that your harass capabilities. You can't just farm trade. Well, I mean, you can, but it's not ideal. Here comes the Lilia, looking to really brute force something here. I suspect they're not going to get too much, just a little bit of damage. Nasus is actually going back in, and then forcing unforced error there as walks back in and then realizes, wait, I don't want to do that, and then flashes out as Nora's about to transform and pummel him. Here comes the Alistar with a flash, knocking back the Nautilus with a headbutt there. Kayn is going to land a little bit of damage. He was sneaking his way in there, but Nautilus, good presence of mind, managed to hook himself away. That's a mouthful. Just in time there. As the last time he tried to do that, he wasn't quite in range, just barely missed the wall. Although his HP total was so low, he probably died regardless, even if he had landed the hook. But this instance, he does manage to get out, and the bottom lane is safe for now. Alistar continuously pushed in with a good amount of aggression there. But not reckless aggression, as he does back off. He's sort of lurking in the bushes. Top lane here, we see some more quiet farming. This game, yeah, it's just been a lot more laid back. A lot more chill than the previous outing. So perhaps both teams are a little bit tired from that just start to finish brawling that last game felt like. Gnar is about to transform here. We'll see if he does anything with it. He doesn't elect to jump in on it. We'll simply continue trading. Does land a stun there. A boulder to the face. Dogs don't like that, but fighting back with a Q there. Nothing of note happening. Mid lane, a little bit of sort of measured trading. Nothing too crippling there. No mortal wounds landed thus far. Actually, Syndra taking a good amount of damage there. Just sort of out of nowhere. That fight, which kind of looked like another barrier, was actually unnecessary, I believe, but ultimately it actually does end up being killed there, as not only was Jhin sniping an ult against the Lilia unexpectedly there. It just sort of looked like that fight had petered out with a, kind of a bit of an awkward kill against the Cassiopeia, and then Lilia wanders in and is like, I want to die too, and shot as we see the Misfortune getting locked up. Is that going to be enough to take her out there? Kayn is really forcing that one down. I believe he's just got barely enough hit points to tank that tower. Yep, he's okay for the time being, as they do really just force that kill there and made sure that one happened. Alistar also insisting that he get shot by the tower a couple times as well, and running his way through, finding himself in a bit of an unfortunate situation. Now, he does aggressively push back in, as he most likely would have died regardless, and does try and lock that situation up, and in fact turns a bad situation into potentially a double kill. At least trades a single there for the time being. Gnar is also caught in a very weird situation there, as he did teleport in, and following that up is the Nasus, who also joins his top lane counterpart in trying to make something happen there, but ultimately that fight does stall out, and Alistar is actually, despite all odds, still alive there, and rather healthy in fact, and will find himself running away from the Cassiopeia for the time being. Does lock her up, and buys time for the AD carry to back off. Nasus now finding himself in an unfortunate situation, as he will go down. A bit of a miscalculation there, I suppose. The Jhin was quite low, so he was correct in backing out in that situation, I feel like. And, I want to call it a slight miscommunication on an otherwise relatively successful outing there by Bang, netting themselves a lot of money in that bottom lane with a very back and forth exchange. It felt like it could go either way for a while. Syndra simply pushing the opposition away. She's not in a great spot in terms of positioning, but does still manage to kill the Cassiopeia. May ultimately go down to the Lilia here, though, as we do have a duel. It's not necessarily over yet, as she does have a lot of damage. Unfortunately, just goes down right at the end there. Lilia managing to sneak out a little bit of damage. However, it looks like the Alistar snuck in at the last second, they're coming in with a steel chair and ultimately claiming victory in the mid lane. So support is now the mid laner apparently, and he's calling that his home for the time being. Nope, he's not done yet. Alistair the Destroyer will be wreaking havoc on the enemy jungle, it looks like. For a while there, it looked like he was going bottom lane, but for the time being, we got some Q farming here by the Nasus. That looks tasty. He's going to be most likely be able to grab a lot of that there. Alistair fears nothing and is facing down the enemy team on his own, electing to back off at this stage, however, and rejoin his teammate who was saying he was lonely. More farming. I feel like something is going to happen here in the... No, actually, the wave is going to push in. It's pushing in too quickly. But in the mid lane, however, the Cassiopeia, the sneaky snake, was in fact not sneaky at all, and may find herself in a rough spot here. She is capable of fighting back, so good job with Lysandra not overextending there and essentially negating that good trade that she managed to get there. That is going to be a blue buff. Everyone wants to fight over the blue buff of all things at this point, as Jhin is safe in the background, and for the time being, the positioning is working out okay for them in terms of the escape. Jhin is... No, sorry, not Jhin. The Kayn ultimately does get sniped down by the Misfortune ult there. However, Alistair is going back in, fancying their chances at round number 2. He is ultimately going to die. Will that be... No, he doesn't die. He makes it out with 10 hit points, flashes over the wall. The person that pays the price for that re-engagement is, in fact, the AD carry. Syndra still is healthy, and there are a number of players with no literally no hit points at this point, as Lilia does find herself the recipient of Syndra's wrath. And I don't know how I pronounce that with a pseudo-British accent, but should I commentate that way for the rest of the game? You really don't want me to. But ultimately, turning that situation around, so the timely arrival of Syndra, not just sort of showing up and managing to, kind of get herself a kill. It was her presence that essentially denied what looked to be a free dragon after a very, very good fight. Probably the best fight of the game thus far from the Ancient. Meanwhile, however, we do have Nasus either cowardly running for his life or cleverly baiting the Gnar in there. Take your pick. It's one or the other. But regardless of how it played out, there was a very timely intervention by his teammates there, and they do manage to net themselves that kill, as Nautilus does try and grab that one. Sorry, that one. Of course, by that one, I mean a ward, and flees the situation. Syndra is taking tower damage, however, with a Nautilus bearing down in on her, and Cassiopeia finally managing to get a kill there without dying herself in the process. She's barely managing to survive. It seems to be a game of barely surviving. Barely surviving is not what the Misfortune will be doing in that situation, though, as she is just sort of beaten up by 3 players, all converging on her at once. Tough situation to be in as an AD carry. Not the most in terms of survival, in terms of the AD carry bag of tricks. And tower will be going down. It's not certain. The Nautilus is there, but of course it's just a Nautilus at the end of the day. Great for locking things down, peel, all that kind of thing, but not necessarily the best at fighting people on an individual basis. The best duelist in the game. Alright, Lilia clearing things up here. Now, just to recap, once again, the score is 11-6. So, this game, I don't know. It feels like it's going a lot better for Bang than the score might indicate. Of course, there's a relatively large gold deficit, which is definitely something you have to account for, about $5,000 there. As Lilia, I do believe she just flashed there. Let's check the cooldowns to make sure. Yep, she was. I don't know if being forced to flash is a bit of perhaps a stretch, but I don't necessarily disagree with it. She did have a number of players bearing down on her there. As Gnar, watching Gnar kind of push Nasus under tower again, but Nasus is completely content with that. It's sort of a Nasus, I don't want to call it a dream game, but this is the sort of games that Nasus players envision in terms of a pleasant experience, where they don't have to do very much other than press Q on the minion wave. And Gnar, strangely, just electing to... Never mind, let's talk about that in a minute there, as Leo is down to half hit points. Syndra just kicking out the surprising amount of damage there. She, of course, is down to half herself there, but had she been allowed to, may have simply forced Lilia to cease to exist. Gnar getting caught out there. We'll see if he can manage to get out. That's Nasus's damage is actually reaching very high points at this juncture here. Really only took about, I think, 3 Qs. It was literally just Qs that were enough to kill him. Alistair going in there with a nice headbutt knock-up combo, and does manage to get themselves a kill on the Lilia there, who was still hurting from that previous exchange, which we were just speaking of. And this is on the back of a Rift Herald there, so they pick themselves that up. Cassiopeia, of course, is fine. They slither away back into the safety of her lane there, trying to protect a ward, but to no avail. That is Syndra here. We, of course, know how much damage Syndra can deal, so any kind of follow-up will allow her to probably delete someone. That is not going to happen, however. She does have her ult. It does require a bit of setup, but she does have her ult, so it's definitely something to keep in mind. Jin stealing those wolves. Oh no, it's a team effort. Team effort or a competition. Maybe they're trying to fight for it. I don't know. I imagine Syndra here, however, will be grabbing this blue buff if she's allowed to. The A-team are bearing down on them, so it's going to be a little bit difficult to grab that. Okay, she should be able to kill it by just dragging it away. There we go. It's one of the advantages of playing that character. You can, of course, you know, the jungle mobs are reset, but it does give you a little bit of extra time to manipulate them and steal things away. So, nice to see that little trick in play here. Here we see Alistair with a Hex Flash and then not moving. I'm not sure if he got stuck inside the wall or glitched out or what happened there. But for the time being, the fight is going quite well for them, as 2 kills have been picked up already by Bang, sniping out Miss Fortune and Cassiopeia, and ultimately Lilia going down as well. The question is, will the support be stopped? Perhaps he simply gave up. It looked like he might have had a chance to escape, but he simply stopped moving. I don't think he was CC'd. And ultimately, that just... This series is very interesting, where it's just like there's a little bit happening, but it's nothing this decisive, and then suddenly it's just all go, and then everyone's dead. You know, we see Gnar also joining in on the fun. Does not want to be left alone there, and will be joining his team on the spawn pad shortly. And that's most likely going to be a tower. No, electing to... An interesting play. It looked like initially they were going to play it safe and like, oh, the enemy's bearing down on us, we'll get that tower later, it doesn't matter. And ultimately Jin making things even more risky, making things interesting and walking back in for the final auto attack. No harm, no foul though, as he will be getting out. No problem. A-team suddenly finding themselves in a very demonstrably poor situation here. So hopefully they can turn things around a bit for themselves from a competitive perspective. As I said, I think what I was trying to get at earlier is, never mind what I was trying to get at, as Lilia is caught out once again, there is no safe space for her, apparently, as even her side of the map is a zone of death. Nautilus, however, coming in, a nice little ult there from Miss Fortune does, well, it doesn't actually land against that many players. Does land a good amount of damage versus Kayn. It's simply a question of whether or not they're going to be able to finish the job here, as in the meantime Nasus does take out 2 players, giving them the Kayn, as it were. And it was an interesting play there. It looked like it had potential, but unfortunately it looks like there was just too much of a numerical advantage on the part of Bang there. So they do pick up another kill. And the question is just how much damage are they going to be able to do off of that sequence of scrambly plays there. Jin is keeping people at bay with his sniper rifle. That's in fact, a Rift Herald inside the enemy base, hitting the inner turrets. One of them does go down. They do at least stave off defeat for the time being. So they have another chance here. But things are not looking great. Not only are they already behind and lost an inhibitor by the 20-minute mark, Nasus is sort of going off, as it were. And really, yeah, no one really won their lane for the A-team this time around. Even their bright spot of top lane, not working out great for them there, as they lose yet another dragon. So behind on money, behind on kills, behind on dragons. And it's weird, because the game felt a lot more competitive until fairly recently. Obviously, you know, Bang had a lead. Here's the thing. I think this is the best way of probably phrasing it. It was essentially that even though they didn't have a huge money lead or a huge kill lead, it always kind of felt like Bang was in the driver's seat, essentially. It just felt like there was significantly less agency on the part of the A team compared to last one, who were kind of attempting to do more. Now they're sort of on the receiving end of things for most of the games. So I think that's the main thing they need to change for themselves if they have any hope of turning things around and winning in the long run here. There is a bit of a skirmish here. It is a 5-on-5. Syndra is potentially going down there. Yeah, there she goes. Does trade with the over her mid lane counterpart as both mages do find themselves dead. Lilia getting shot down by the Jhin there, who is not done. Will be looking to finish off the AD. What happened to Jhin there? Jhin was just was on. It looked like he was on autopilot or something. Kept running. Alistair still looking to make things happen there, locking people up. Quadra kill on the part of the AD carry there. Here comes the pentakill. Another pentakill. That's 2 days in a row. So Kane just coming in at the last second and helping a little bit. And then we finally have Jhin ending things on the pentakill note. So I believe that is the surrender coming in. As I said, just a very, very strange game. Totally different from that first one there, where it really just didn't look like the A team had a chance to get going, unfortunately for them, and able to showcase, their skills, as they just sort of got steamrolled in that instance. But a good effort nonetheless. Excellent play by all players all around. Thank you for playing. Thank you for watching, and I'll be seeing you guys hopefully in I believe, the finals between. Let me just confirm with my notes here. It's going to be Bang versus Uwu, I think, and I hope to see you guys for that. Thanks again. Goodbye, and have a pleasant remainder of your evening.